Good morning. It's Friday morning here in Jerusalem, and hope you all are gradually uncovering yourselves from the ice and snow and managing to stay warm back in DC. At the very beginning or towards the beginning of Parashat Beshallah, we are told that God led us in a circuitous route by way of Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds, as we left Egypt. And then the Torah says, "V'chamushim alu b'nei Israel mi'eretz Mitzrayim," and we rose up from Egypt. The Israelites rose up from Egypt, chamushim, which is a word that defies simple translation. Rashi offers us two interpretations of this word. The first is that chamushim means that we left Egypt armed. Rashi explains, we went this circuitous route through the wilderness. We had all sorts of trials and battles that we encountered along the way, and we needed to be armed in order to do that, and we left Egypt with those weapons. And the other interpretation that Rashi brings, and both of these interpretations from the Mechilta, Rashi brings another interpretation. Chamushi means 1/5. Only 1 out of 5 Israelites actually left Egypt, but 4 out of 5 were unwilling or unworthy to leave Egypt, and they died during the plague of darkness. And so it was a remnant, a righteous remnant of the Jewish people that actually left Egypt. Both of these interpretations have a lot of power, and they animate, I think, a lot of thinking in Judaism to this day. If you think back to Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, one of the founding fathers of modern Orthodoxy and an advocate of a position that in Germany and in Frankfurt, where he lived, he called Austritt, that Orthodox Jews had to be entirely independent and separate from any Jewish institution that wasn't under the auspices of other Orthodox Jews. And you see that as a vision that comes from this understanding of Chamushim alu b'nei Israel mi'eretz Mitzrayim. It's only a righteous few, maybe even a small minority that left Egypt, but it doesn't matter because we have a mission and we have a set of values that are animating us as Jews, and if you're not signed on to the core components of the beliefs and practices that define Judaism, then you're aligning yourself with that majority that was left behind in Egypt. And of course, the other understanding that we left Egypt armed is, I think, also a very powerful, potent vision of a kind of assertiveness that as we, at the very dawn of our freedom, we had the means to defend ourselves. Even when we were under this incredible, miraculous protection of God, we took with us weapons because we understood that a long path requires encounters opposition, and freedom has to be defended. They're both there in Rashi. They're both there in the word. They're in one way. Elu ve'elu, both of these interpretations are the words of living God, and they can never be resolved. I do think it's worth pointing out that these two interpretations are, in fact, two different interpretations. And I think it's important that those who are animated by and inspired by a vision of Jewish freedom and Jewish peoplehood, and maybe even willingness to use arms to defend our freedom. If those feelings animate our Jewish identity, you can't then also loop in the understanding that only a righteous minority is worthy of being considered Jews. If you love the Jewish people and believe in our freedom and our freedom, that we defend ourselves, a kind of Jewish patriotism. You can't be a Jewish patriot and not love the Jews. You can't be a Jewish patriot and believe that only a tiny righteous minority who thinks the right way or acts the right way or is aligned the right way deserves that love and that loyalty. Right? You can either be in the lane of a small righteous minority is worthy of being considered Bnei Israel, or you can be in the lane of Jewish freedom and self-defense and kind of marching with self-respect and power out of Egypt. But you can't be in both lanes. These are two different interpretations of one word, and you got to pick one. And I see sometimes I'm really bothered by attitudes in the Jewish community that seem to merge those two understandings. To be Jewish patriots who don't really like Jews, to be Jewish patriots whose love is really limited to only a few. And I think Jewish peoplehood, if that's a spirit that animates you, as I think it does for for most of us today in the modern Orthodox community, I think that has to be linked with that love and respect that encompasses those who even believe and act and align themselves in rather different ways. That's, I think, a dynamic that I see in the Jewish community. Outside the Jewish community, let's looking towards the broader discussion in America. I think these two different ways of thinking are also present. There's an America that harkens back to the Mayflower Contract, right? A tiny righteous few who sought in America a place in which they could be a righteous minority together, untainted by the majority. The Chamushim, right? Very much inspired by the biblical story of leaving the majority behind in their sinfulness and creating something new with out of that remnant, that righteous minority, that righteous remnant. And then, of course, there's the America of Emma Lazarus and the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. And those two visions are fundamentally both part of the American story and also incompatible. These are two different interpretations of what the story is about, just as Chamushim can mean one thing or it can mean another thing, but it can't mean both at the same time. And I think just as Jews have to decide to pick a lane, ultimately I think the American conversation also has to figure out a way to honor the diversity of that history, which draws from the Mayflower Compact and from Emma Lazarus as just two symbolic examples, but ultimately has to make a decision. Okay, I hope you all have a restful and restorative Shabbat back in DC, and look forward to hearing about it, and look forward to sharing with you more about my trip here in Israel and what I'm learning here and who I'm meeting here. All right, be well.